Good morning. My name is Tamara Carter, and I am a career and technical education teacher with DCPS. My actual research is going to focus on how we can reverse the pipeline from school to prison to entrepreneurship. So my focus is going to be on the impact of entrepreneurship programs on the recidivism rate of adult students. So for those who were like me maybe 2 or 3 years ago and have never ever seen this term before or know what this term means, here is the definition. It's a very short, sweet, but a really issue that's going on within adult education for those who are actually incarcerated. So my research will examine how the entrepreneurship programs for adult students can actually reduce the recidivism rate, or what effect does it has on the recidivism rate. So the rationale for my research is that there is a national and local challenge to reduce the increased levels of incarceration, and that ex-offenders are faced with substantial difficulty of securing employment upon release. In order for ex-offenders to reintegrate into society, our penal institutions must revise career opportunities that will provide all inmates with the skills they need to be fiscally competent after their release. I would like to quickly share that my brother was incarcerated in Norfolk City Jail, and he served a year in jail. So while he was there, he did not learn a skill nor a trade. He simply did his time, as most inmates do. When he was released from Norfolk City Jail and returned back to the community, he had a difficult time finding a job or employment because he had already been convicted as an ex-felon. So the odds were against him. He actually got into survival mode, as the most ex-offenders do when they're back into the community. So he went back to his old habit of trying to make money. He was rearrested. He was sentenced to serve in a prison. He served 2 years in prison. However, he was a little bit smarter the second time because he learned a trade. He learned how to paint, and once he was released from prison, he joined the local painters union in Norfolk, and he is now, 15 years or more later, a successful entrepreneur with a painting contracting company. And yes, he does hire ex-offenders. He even set up an apprenticeship program for those ex-offenders upon their release from jail or prison. One of my slides is not showing, but I'm going to speak of it anyway. So it's important that I share my background setting. So my study group consists of 30 to 40, 18 to 22-year-old incarcerated 100% special education adult males with sporadic attendance. Our population is 100% African American males. They have low performance academics levels, and they are 15 or more credits away from earning their high school diploma. They are facing sentencing of a few months to 60 years or more. And they can be transferred to another penal institution at any time after they receive their sentence. The lack of a comprehensive entrepreneurship program in my setting, coupled with the insurmountable stress of incarceration, creates an unstable learning environment that is not conducive to their successful reentry into society. The implementation of a comprehensive entrepreneurship program for interested adult students may lead to a reduction in the current recidivism rate. My setting is very unique. We have 2 classrooms. We have 5 teachers. We teach together in 2 classrooms. You know, we're not co-teaching. We're really just in each other's way, trying to get our subject to our students. These students have not been to school since maybe 4th grade. If they were lucky, maybe 8th grade. So they're very low performing. Once they actually come into our setting, their whole thing is, from my class as a career and technical education teacher, where I teach career readiness skills, employability skills, and also entrepreneurship, their main concern is, how am I going to make some money, Mrs. Carter, when I leave your class? Show me some relevancy. Because it's a game for survival for our population of students. Most of them are head of their household. So their entire purpose was really to try to gain finances or money to help take care of their younger siblings, a grandparent, or even a parent themselves. So they are really faced with the challenge of, what can you do for me in this setting that's going to make it more meaningful for me so that when I leave here, I can be a productive citizen in society. So my research has shown that if we actually can explore the use of an entrepreneurship program inside prisons as a means to help prisoners or prison identify income-driven opportunities for inmates upon their release from prison, then most of the ex-offenders who are facing unemployment, and specifically our young men, they are the most at risk of facing unemployment because most of them have never worked. A lot of students have never even participated in the summer youth program. And a lot of us as adults, including myself, got my first job through a summer youth program. So if you actually can implement this, then this will reduce the unemployment rate for our younger male. As of 2017, 50% of the District of Columbia's returning citizens, those people who have been released back into society, are currently unemployed. 50% are back in prison within 3 years. We're right back to that term, recidivism. They're right back in prison within 3 years. This data supports the ghastly correlation between unemployment and the recidivism rate. The questions that should be given careful consideration is, how are ex-offenders being prepared for re-entry into society? In my setting, that's a crucial question. How are we preparing our students for re-entry into society? What employment opportunities are available for ex-offenders? How do we address employability and the recidivism rate? In order for things to get better for ex-offenders, these questions must be analyzed, they must be answered, and it could come up, we may be able to come up with a good answer through entrepreneurship programs. CTE programs offer specific skill sets. However, entrepreneurship programs create a desire to be your owner of a company. You can take that idea, you can turn it into a successful business entity. There is a program that has been around since 1925 that is called PEP, the Prison Entrepreneurship Program. It's one of the oldest and largest and the most comprehensive entrepreneurship program in prisons in the United States. It has been influential in the formation and structure of similar programs across the United States. 94% of these graduates surveyed in 2017 were either employed or self-employed. Some of them actually returned to work for PEP. These inmates actually do get a certificate in entrepreneurship from Baylor University. So I collected data. I surveyed roughly 25 students because our attendance is so sporadic. So at the time of my data collection, I surveyed 20 of my test subjects. 25 of the 25, 20 said that if they had an entrepreneurship program that was comprehensive and relevant to them, they probably would not have reoffended. So I have seen some of my students multiple times in the 4 years since I've been in my current setting. They leave, they come right back. It's a revolving door. We go right back to recidivism. So we're trying to find out what can we do to decrease the number of students who have actually returned back to our facility. On an average basis, we may have 28 students who have been enrolled throughout the entire year because, as I mentioned earlier, their attendance is sporadic. They may be with us for a few months, a year or 2 years, but then they're transferred to another facility. But at the time this research was done, we actually had an average of 28 students who were enrolled in our school setting. Of that 28 students, 60% reoffended and came right back to us. One came back in less than 2 weeks. As a matter of fact, some reoffended and returned multiple times. And so when they come back, I always ask, so what happened? We don't have a good transition program set in place, for one thing. Secondly, we don't prepare them to be successful when they leave the classroom or leave our setting. We have a curriculum that is watered down. It's not conducive to our population of students. So therefore, when we send them back out to the community and expect them to not come back and to go to school, the likelihood of that happening is very slim because they never wanted to go to school in the first place. So it's going to be hard for us to say, well, we shouldn't have to see you again. but we know we're going to see them again. So we do pray for them, we wish them well, and we hope that when they go back, that they are successful in whatever they should decide to do. So the recommendations from our research is that because of the high rate of recidivism, and because it is a national challenge, and many minority groups in their communities have been adversely affected by this trend, it is important that these recommendations are taken into consideration to reverse the pipeline from school to prison and reverse that pipeline to prison to entrepreneurship. So further research is required because we have a lot of youth offenders as well, not just adult offenders. So when you offend as a youth and then you don't have the resources you need to be successful, what's going to happen? You're going to reoffend as an adult. So we have to really change that pipeline, switch it around from prison to entrepreneurship.